All right. It appears this controversy centers around whether a former major gave an order to hide the cost of the construction project. But what everyone is failing to recognize is I was in the room. I was in the room. I would never allow the police department to keep a secret of this nature from our community. We are a transparent agency. And because of that, I believe that's the right way and the only way to operate. I also believe in the highest level of accountability, which is why I initially asked the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, a dedicated law enforcement agency, to investigate the complaint against the former major. Unfortunately, that request was denied. I also met with our city attorney, and I requested his office or an outside law firm or some outside entity to conduct this investigation. But those requests were also denied. To ensure a fair and impartial investigation, I removed the former major from the investigative process. Let me be clear. The Fort Myers Police Department firmly stands behind its investigation. The Jensen Hughes report focuses only on technicalities. But the bottom line is unchanged. There was no impropriety. It's also important to note that for 3 straight years, the Free Group conducted an audit of our internal affairs process. 3 straight years. And we were 100% in compliance. We passed with flying colors. I want to address some other questions about the Free report. It included a long list of recommendations. And I'm here to tell you, we have implemented every single one of those recommendations. We are a better agency today due to the steps we have taken to learn and grow from that report. We have more officers who are better trained, using the latest technology, operating in the best practices when it comes to fighting crime. And the proof is in the numbers. While violent crime is skyrocketing across this country, homicides and violent crime have declined in the city of Fort Myers. We have been named by the U.S. News and World Report as the 8th safest city in the country because of the work of the Fort Myers Police Department and our relationship with the community. I am very proud of that fact. In closing, this Jensen Hughes report wants to challenge my leadership. But the bottom line is Fort Myers and the Fort Myers Police Department is a better place today. I was brought down here to clean up this city. I was brought down here to clean up this police department. I was brought down here to clear up the corruption that was part of the Fort Myers Police Department's past. I was brought down here to make this city safer and curb the violent crime, and we've done that. We are a better agency, and this is a safer city. And a report that focuses on technicalities and minute details is not going to change that. Questions?
Do you believe that the department, in conducting this internal investigation and reaching out to those other agencies for assistance, do you believe that you guys did every possible step that you could to make sure that this investigation was done fairly?
Correct.
Chief, can you tell us why what appeared to be one of the factors that were involved in some of the comments made by the Inspector General was the complaints against him that he did not have the authority to contact the city attorney about the authority? What limits are placed on the Inspector General as far as who he can talk to when conducting an internal investigation?
He has to follow the processes and policies like everybody else on this department. Because he's the Inspector General doesn't mean that he can disregard and run through our policies and policy because he wants to.
Is that typical in police departments, that somebody who has a function to investigate wrongdoing within the department does not have carte blanche to talk to who he wants to about the allegations that may have come before him?
What I said before, there's policies and procedures of this police department. He violated those policies and procedure. He has to operate like everybody else on this police department, no exception.
Okay, but my question is whether or not those policies, the question then becomes, whether or not those policies stand in the way of an investigation that would be conducted by an inspector general, that who's having to get permission to talk to people and things of that sort. Does that put a restraint on his ability to get to the bottom of the situation?
I do not believe so.
In light of this investigation, will the department be considering any changes to that policy or those statutes regarding if an internal investigation needs to be done, if there are parties involved that are directly affiliated with the Internal Affairs Bureau?
The state law, you have to look at three things. First of all, you have to look at what the department policy. Then you have to look at what the Officer Bill of Rights. Then you have to look at what state law says. And then the fourth thing is you have to look at what was the judicial decisions and legal opinions that has resulted from previous cases. When that is done, that gives you a clear understanding of how these cases got to be handled. I don't want to get into a bunch of technicalities here, but let me make it easy for you. Number one, the chief of police and only the chief of police can determine when to conduct an internal affairs investigation. He's the only person. Number two, when conducting that investigation, you have to utilize the exclusive procedure to conduct that investigation, which means there's no such thing as an independent investigation. No such thing when it comes to conducting an internal affairs investigation. Number three, only the chief of police, not any reviewer, not anybody else, only the chief of police can determine the final disposition of an internal affairs investigation. That's very clear. Once you understand those facts, nothing else matters. It's not about did you have somebody review the case before it comes before the chief of police. It's not about having a designee reviewing or receiving a complaint. Those are the three things that you have to remember, and it's clear. And when there's conflicting information in the statute, then you have to go to what some of the court decisions have said, as well as what the state attorney general has said. And he's made it very clear. When it comes to internal affairs investigation, there's no such thing as an independent investigation.
So I want to clarify something, because you did say earlier today that you went to FDLE, you went to the city attorney's office. Were you hoping that one of those agencies or an independent law office would conduct that internal investigation, or not? What were you hoping that they would do?
I was hoping that they would take the investigation that would take it out of my hands, so that these questions that everybody's coming up with right now about, well, it's not being done fair and all this other stuff and all this other nonsense will be completely eliminated.
So this would be in lieu of the department doing that investigation?
That's correct.
Okay.
What is your interpretation of what happened in that room? You started by telling us how you were there. What was your take on the events that happened there?
The take on the events that happened, that there was no unlawful order issued in that room.
You talked about the department being transparent. Why has it been so long since the community has heard from you directly? And why is this the item that was important for you to address today?
Because of all the misinterpretation. Because of misinterpretation. This Jensen Hughes group has misinterpreted our policy. They misinterpreted state law. They misinterpreted the Officer Bill of Rights. And the other thing is that I don't normally discuss internal affairs investigation. But this has gotten to the point where it's so out of control, it felt important for me to come here and set the record straight.
Chief, could you tell us when you first found out that the Department of Housing and Urban Development had some issues with respect to the location of the police department? Was that brought directly to you by anyone, or was it just that mention that was made by the executive director of the Housing Authority during the city council meeting made you aware that there was some issues with HUD with respect to whether or not the station location could be used?
That came out of a report that I saw where it was clearly indicated that that location was important for that choice grant to be accepted.
You also mentioned the free report. Why is any part of the free report still being redacted?
Well, I think what you're trying to say is, why is the free report, it still hasn't been released? That decision has been made by the city attorney. That's in his hands now. Once he says to release the report, we'll release the report.
Do you have any comment regarding the federal lawsuit that was just filed this morning against the police department, city of Fort Myers, and yourself by the attorney representing Mr. Oswald?
I know nothing about a lawsuit.
You've not served that way.
No, I know nothing about a lawsuit.
Representative.
I know nothing about a lawsuit.
Within the last year, between Jason Jackson, Sarah Horikoski, and Evelyn Roberts, there have been terminations that the police union has challenged. They've called for more transparency from you specifically and from the department. We just haven't heard from you since then. Do you have any response to that call for transparency from the union?
I think we've been very transparent. You got to understand that some of these cases we're not allowed to discuss, okay?
Regarding the Jensen Hughes report on this matter, one of the suggestions that was listed in the report is that FMPD could possibly form some sort of relationship with another law enforcement agency in our area, so that if an investigation, internal investigation of this nature ever came up again, then you could have another agency conduct that internal review. Is that something that the department is considering, or have there been talks about how to handle these kinds of situations going forward?
All I can tell you is under that scenario, based on my view of state law, that cannot happen. There is no such thing as an independent investigation when it comes to internal affairs investigation. The courts have been clear. The state attorney general has been clear. There is no such thing as an independent investigation when conducting an internal affairs investigation.
Chief, does the department plan on taking a look at those recommendations and making any changes based on any of the recommendations of the report?
As I said before, we will take a look at the recommendations. I have no problem doing that. Whether we will comply with those recommendations, I cannot answer that question at this time.
Chief, is there any, can you get us, or can have the department get us the court cases or the rules of restrictions that we're going to expect to be able to conduct an operational investigation on file?
Sure, we'll get you all our policies and everything else.
In that lawsuit, I know you said that you were unaware of it at this point, but in that lawsuit, Oswald talks about his process after whatever happened in that room and everything that happened since. Can you just describe to us the way that you felt he was treated before he resigned from the department?
He was treated like any other officer. He wasn't treated any differently. He was treated like any other officer. And if he wants to make allegations that he was treated differently, I refute that.
Do you believe that Oswald was kept out of certain meetings or proceedings that would have inhibited him to be able to do his job as Inspector General?
No.
How unique is this situation with all the variables involved, having to pursue an outside agency to do the investigation, now having your investigation reviewed? Have you ever dealt with anything like this professionally, and can you just describe the challenges that it's brought?
Never had to do anything like this. But we conduct this as investigation thoroughly, fairly, and impartially. And it is very clear. The result of that investigation determined that this case was unfounded. Period. Case closed.
Do you ever feel, or do you currently feel like, you referenced the free report and the systematic descriptions that it laid out before you got here. Do you feel like your department is still weeding out some of those systematic routes that were here before you arrived?
I think we're constantly always trying to make our department better. And we implemented all the things the free report has indicated. We were 100% compliant. As I said before, we were audited and reviewed for 3 straight years, and we were in 100% compliance with that report.
Chief, can the community expect to hear from you more moving forward?
What do you mean by that?
Well, as the gentleman over here said, we have not heard from you often when it comes to matters from the department or within the department, but that's been a call from the communities to have more access to you. Is that something that you can provide to us as far as hearing more from you when it comes to issues within the department or just seeing you more in the community?
Well, apparently you wasn't at the Easter parade yesterday.
I was there.
Because I was at the Easter parade, and the only thing I heard from members of the community was, Chief Diggs, you're the best thing that ever came to Fort Myers. Please stay. We support what you're doing. You're doing a fantastic job. 100% support. So wherever this going about, I'm not in the community or not seeing the community, I don't know where that's coming from. Because if you were at that parade, and you, maybe next time we'll let you ride in the back of the car as we go through the parade, but had nothing but positive things that were said to me and what we're doing in this police department.
Sure, I think that there are a lot of positive things that we hear in the community, but also when there comes to challenges like the free report or any other challenges that we've heard when it comes to the department, there have been people in the community who say they want to hear more from you. Is that something that you?
When there's a need, when I feel there's a need to address the media about anything, I will do so. Okay?
Oswald also has linked the prospective police headquarters to your contract status at that time. This is now almost a year ago. I just wanted to give you the opportunity. Did the police headquarters and that project, the development, the numbers, have anything to do with your contract status at that time?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.